Madison Thompson had spent years raising her 3 kids alone in Chicago, juggling jobs, homework, and bedtime stories, never imagining that their father was still somewhere out there. She had moved on, focused on keeping her kids safe and happy, convinced he had disappeared from their lives forever. But one rainy evening, fate had other plans. Her youngest slipped, cutting his arm badly, and she rushed all 3 kids to the nearest ER, terrified and panicked. As she approached the triage desk, trying to explain the situation, she froze. The doctor stepping forward to attend to them was none other than Ethan Grant, the man who had left her 12 years ago, their kid's father. He looked up from the charts, eyes wide, unable to believe fate had put them in the same room. In that instant, a lifetime of choices, regrets, and missed moments collided, and nothing would ever be the same. Madison Thompson gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity as rain pelted the streets of Chicago. Her youngest, Max, sat in the back seat, whimpering and clutching his bleeding arm, while her other 2 kids, Emma and Jake, tried to comfort him. Panic had clawed its way into her chest. She had never imagined an evening like this. The ER was just a few blocks away, but every second felt like an eternity. She burst through the sliding glass doors of the hospital, dragging the kids with her. "Help, my son, he's bleeding," she shouted to the receptionist, her voice trembling. Nurses appeared instantly, pulling them toward the triage area. Madison tried to explain, her words spilling over each other in a frantic rush. Then she saw him. Ethan Grant. Her heart stopped. He looked up from the clipboard, in his hands, his eyes meeting hers with a flash of recognition. 12 years ago, he had walked out of her life, leaving her alone with 3 kids and a lifetime of unanswered questions. Now he was here, in a crisp white coat, the man responsible for saving lives, and somehow, he was about to save hers. For a brief, suspended moment, time froze. Madison's instincts screamed at her to keep moving, to keep her kids away from him, but the doctors needed him. He was the attending physician on duty. She swallowed the lump in her throat and nodded toward him, trying to maintain composure, even as her body trembled. "Dr. Grant," she said softly, "it's my son. He cut his arm badly." Ethan's eyes widened, and for the first time in years, he looked helpless. The confident, composed man who had left her life seemed suddenly small. He dropped the clipboard and rushed toward Max, assessing the injury with professional precision, but Madison noticed the way his jaw tightened, the way his fingers shook slightly. "Stay calm," Ethan said, voice low but firm, directing the nurses. "We're going to take care of him." Madison felt a strange mix of fear, anger, and relief. The man who had abandoned her and their children was now responsible for their safety. She had spent 12 years preparing for life without him, and here he was suddenly unavoidable, suddenly present, suddenly holding power over the moment that mattered most. As Max was carefully carried to the treatment room, Madison held Emma and Jake close. "Go sit over there," she whispered. "I'll be right with you." Ethan worked quickly, cleaning the wound, applying numbing agents, and preparing stitches. His hands were steady, precise, and skilled. But Madison could see the conflict in his eyes, the regret, the guilt, the realization of what he had lost. I can't believe it's you," Madison muttered under her breath, trying to steady her voice. Ethan glanced up briefly. "I know," he said, jaw tight. "I am sorry." She flinched. 12 years of hurt and abandonment surged up in her chest. "Sorry doesn't fix this," she said, her voice quivering. "You left us. You left me. You left them." He swallowed hard, nodding but didn't respond. Instead, he focused on Max, carefully stitching the wound, offering small reassurances to calm him. Madison watched, a complicated swirl of emotions churning inside her. The man she had loved, the father of her children, was here, but the past couldn't be undone. Once the stitches were done, Ethan gently applied a bandage. "He'll be fine," he said quietly. "Keep an eye on him for the next 24 hours, but he's stable." Madison exhaled slowly, finally allowing herself a breath, relief mixed with resentment. The man who had abandoned them was now the one who had saved her son's life. Fate had a cruel sense of irony. As she gathered her kids, Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. "Madison, can we talk?" "Later." She looked at him, anger flaring. "Later? You left us for 12 years. Later isn't good enough." He nodded solemnly. "I know, but I need to explain. I need a chance to." Madison cut him off, shaking her head. "Right now, we're just trying to survive this night. That's all that matters." She took Max's hand, guiding the kids out of the treatment area, but she could feel Ethan's eyes on them. A storm of memories, regrets, and unspoken words hung in the air. thick and heavy. As they exited the ER, Madison glanced back once. Ethan was still there, watching, guilt and longing evident in his posture. She tightened her grip on Max's hand, knowing that this encounter was just the beginning and that the past she had tried to bury was now clawing its way back into her life. Because sometimes, fate doesn't ask permission, and tonight, the father who had abandoned them would be forced to face the children he left behind. The mother who never forgot. The ER waiting room was cold and sterile, buzzing with the low hum of fluorescent lights and distant beeps from the monitors. Madison sat with Emma and Jake beside her, holding Max's bandaged arm, her mind racing. She couldn't stop thinking about Ethan Grant, the man who had left them, who had walked out of their lives without a word, now sitting just a few feet away, working on her son as if nothing had changed. Madison tried to focus on the kids. "Okay, you two. Grab some juice," she said softly, trying to create a small sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. But Emma's eyes were glued to Ethan. "Mom, why is he here?" she whispered. Madison's chest tightened. "He's your dad," she said carefully. The words felt strange on her tongue, heavy with 12 years of pain, anger, and disappointment. Emma's mouth opened, but no words came. Jake, the middle child, looked confused and scared. Madison realized just how little the kids knew about their father and how surreal this moment must feel for them. Meanwhile, Ethan had finished his paperwork and quietly approached the waiting area. He kept his voice low, careful not to startle the children. "Madison, I know this isn't the right time, but I need to say, don't." Madison interrupted sharply. "Not now. Not here. You'll have a chance to explain later. But right now, we're dealing with Max." Ethan's shoulders slumped slightly, but he nodded. "Okay, I understand." He glanced at the kids, his expression softening. "Are they okay?" "They will be," Madison said firmly. "Thanks to you." She didn't let the words sound grateful. She refused to give him that satisfaction yet, but deep down, she knew she was relieved he had been there. Max's arm was stitched and stable, and that was the most important thing. Time stretched on. Max fell asleep in Madison's lap, exhausted from the trauma. Emma and Jake sat quietly beside them, the tension in the room almost tangible. Madison kept glancing at Ethan, who remained a few feet away, uncertain, his usual confidence stripped away by guilt and regret. Finally, the nurse returned. "You can take him home soon. He just needs to rest and keep the arm elevated." Madison nodded, relief washing over her. She glanced at Ethan, who seemed hesitant to leave. He fidgeted slightly, as if trying to find the right words. "I should," he began. "No," Madison said again, her voice firm. "We're leaving. We need to focus on the kids now." She grabbed the discharge papers and carefully helped Max to his feet, guiding him toward the exit. Ethan followed at a distance, watching her handle the children with the same care and love he had never given. 12 years of absence had left scars, and he felt them acutely now, seeing her strength firsthand. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective. Madison loaded the kids into the car, keeping her voice calm but steady. "Okay, everyone, we're going home. Let's go." As they drove, Madison stole glances at Ethan's car parked nearby. He hadn't left yet. She didn't know why part of her didn't want him to, but another part of her worried about what he might do. When they reached home, Madison guided the kids inside and set them up with snacks and blankets. She felt exhausted but relieved. For a moment, she allowed herself to breathe. Then she heard a knock at the door. Madison froze. "What do you want?" she demanded, keeping her voice steady despite the sudden surge of emotions. I want to make sure they're okay," he said softly. His voice held an honesty that surprised her. "And I want to talk. When you're ready." Madison clenched her jaw. "You had 12 years to talk. You didn't. You left us." He nodded, shame flickering in his eyes. "I know, and I regret it every single day." Madison shook her head. "Right now, I don't care about regrets. I care about my kids. You stay away until I call you." He hesitated, then nodded, retreating slightly. "I understand. I'll wait." Madison closed the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. 12 years of anger, betrayal, and loneliness pressed down on her. But tonight, she had survived. The kids were safe. That was what mattered. But she couldn't deny the strange, uncomfortable truth. The encounter had stirred something she thought she had buried long ago. Ethan had seen their children. He had been there when they needed him most. And she knew, deep down, that this wasn't the last time their paths would cross. As the kids settled down for the night, Madison sat alone in the living room, thinking about the future. 12 years of silence couldn't be erased, and forgiveness wasn't on the table yet. But she also knew that the story was far from over. The man who had abandoned them had re-entered their lives, and whether she liked it or not, the next chapter was about to begin, because fate had a way of forcing the past into the present. Tonight had proven that some encounters couldn't be avoided. Madison Thompson would have to find a way to protect her children, face the man who left them, and navigate the storm that was about to hit their lives, all while keeping her family intact. And for the first time in years, she realized that surviving the night was only the beginning. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds, cutting across Madison's living room like a spotlight on the chaos brewing beneath the surface. The kids were quiet, unusually subdued, as if they sensed the storm waiting outside the safety of their walls. Madison sipped her coffee, trying to steel herself, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Ethan sitting across from her in the ER yesterday, white coat and guilt plastered on his face, looking at their children as if they were strangers, and yet, undeniably, his own. She couldn't pretend the encounter hadn't stirred something inside her, a mix of fear, anger, and a reluctant curiosity. 12 years of abandonment didn't just disappear, but neither did the possibility of closure or confrontation. And deep down, Madison knew it was coming. The knock at the door came sharp and deliberate, cutting through the quiet. Madison's heart clenched. "It's him," she whispered to herself, gripping the counter for support. "Madison, please. I need a moment." Ethan's voice carried through the door, calm but tinged with urgency. She hesitated, debating whether to ignore him, but something in his tone, the raw honesty, made her unlock the door. He stepped in, removing his coat, revealing the neatly pressed shirt underneath. The confident exterior she remembered was still there, but now it was tempered with humility, the weight of years of mistakes etched in the lines of his face. "I just want to see them," he said, eyes darting to the kids, who were quietly observing from the living room couch. Madison held up a hand. "Not yet. Not until I know why you're here. 12 years, Ethan. 12 years of nothing. And now suddenly, you appear. Why?" He swallowed hard. I made mistakes. Horrible ones? But I couldn't stay away last night. When I saw Max in the ER, I couldn't pretend I didn't care." The kids watched silently, their expressions a mixture of confusion, curiosity, and guarded hope. Madison felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She had protected them for so long, and she wasn't about to let this man waltz back into their lives without accountability. "I don't know if you can fix anything," she said, voice tight. "You left. You missed birthdays, scraped knees, school plays. You weren't there when they needed you most." Ethan nodded, eyes glistening. "I know, and I can't change that. I can't get back the years I lost, but I'm here now. I want to do better. I want to try, if you'll let me." Max, who had been quietly fidgeting, tugged on Madison's sleeve. "Mom, can he stay?" His small voice trembled with uncertainty. Madison looked at him, then at Ethan, and then at Emma and Jake. The air was heavy with tension. She exhaled slowly. 1 hour. 1 hour in the living room, and if anyone causes trouble, it ends there. Ethan nodded gratefully, kneeling down to meet the kids at eye level. "I know I don't deserve it," he said gently, "but I want to be here, even for an hour." The kids hesitated, unsure how to feel. 12 years of absence wasn't something you simply forgave overnight, but there was something in his Issa vulnerability, a remorse that felt real. For the next hour, Ethan sat on the couch with them. He asked questions about school, about their favorite games, about little things he had missed entirely. He stumbled at times, using the wrong names, forgetting birthdays, awkwardly navigating the role of father he had abandoned, but he tried. And for the first time, Madison noticed a small shift in her children's expressions, curiosity replacing fear, tentative smiles replacing suspicion. When Max finally relaxed enough to show Ethan his drawings, Ethan's eyes softened. "You're talented," he said quietly, genuinely impressed. "I can't believe I missed all of this." Emma, sitting beside her brother, finally spoke up. "Why did you leave?" Her voice was small, but firm. Ethan froze, unable to meet her gaze. I was scared. Scared of being a father. Scared of failing. But that doesn't excuse what I did. I hurt all of you, and I'm so sorry." Silence filled the room. Madison's chest tightened as she watched her children absorb the words. Ethan's remorse was real, but the years of absence could not simply be erased. Jake, the middle child, finally spoke, his voice quiet but determined. "You can't just come back and fix everything. We don't even know you." Ethan nodded solemnly. "I know. And I'm not asking to fix everything overnight. I just want a chance, even a small one, to be here, to try. The next few hours passed slowly. Ethan helped with homework, listened to stories, and even attempted to play a board game. He laughed at their jokes, stumbled through small mistakes, and gradually, the children started to respond, not fully trusting him, but engaging cautiously. Madison observed quietly, torn between anger and relief. He was trying, at least. That much was undeniable. As the evening approached, Madison called them together. "It's time for dinner," she said. Watching Ethan's reaction, he smiled softly, a mixture of gratitude and anxiety. Sitting around the table, the conversation was awkward at first. Ethan stumbled over simple questions, tried too hard to connect, but the children responded in small ways, asking questions, laughing at small jokes, allowing him brief glimpses into their lives. Madison realized something: he wasn't perfect, and he never would be, but he was present, and that was the first step. By the time the night settled, Ethan had proven one thing: he was willing to face the past. The next challenge would be bigger: earning their trust, navigating the fractures he caused, and discovering whether the children could forgive a man who had been absent for 12 years. Madison knew the road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, she felt a spark of cautious hope. The father they never had was now here, and fate had forced their lives to intersect once again. Because sometimes, the past doesn't stay buried, and sometimes, life demands a confrontation you can't walk away from. And tonight, the confrontation had only just begun. The next morning, the Thompson household felt unusually still. Madison moved quietly through the kitchen, preparing breakfast for the kids. While Ethan sat at the table, nervously sipping coffee, the night had been awkward, tense, and yet revealing. For the first time in 12 years, he had seen his children as they were: strong, independent, and remarkably resilient. "Mom, can he stay for school drop-off?" Emma asked quietly, her eyes cautious but curious. Madison hesitated, glancing at Ethan. He nodded slightly, a small hopeful smile on his lips. "I'd like that," he said softly. Reluctantly, Madison agreed. 1 hour, after that, you're on your own. The drive to school was quiet at first. Max sat beside Ethan, gripping his father's hand tentatively. Jake was in the back seat, fidgeting nervously, while Ethan spoke softly, asking questions about their day, about school projects, about friends. He stumbled at times, forgetting names, fumbling simple instructions, but he tried, and that effort mattered. By the time they arrived, Ethan was exhausted, but a small spark of connection had formed. The kids had opened up slightly, allowing glimpses of trust that had been buried for years. Madison watched from the curb, a mixture of relief and lingering caution in her chest. After dropping the kids off, Ethan lingered. "I know I can't fix the past," he said quietly, "but I want to be part of their lives now, if you'll let me." Madison's eyes softened slightly, though her resolve remained. "It won't be easy. They've built a life without you, and so have I. But I'll give you a chance, one step at a time." The following weeks were challenging. Ethan showed up for school events, helped with homework, and gradually became a part of small daily routines. The kids tested him, constantly pushing boundaries, questioning his motives, challenging his presence, but each small success built a bridge he had no right to expect, yet desperately wanted to earn. One afternoon, Ethan found himself sitting in Max's room, helping him with a science project. Max looked up at him with wide eyes. "I didn't think you'd actually care," he said quietly. Ethan's throat tightened. "I care more than you know, buddy. I'm sorry it took me so long to show it." Max smiled faintly, the first real warmth he had allowed since that night in the ER. It was a small victory, but it meant everything. Meanwhile, Madison observed from the doorway, heart swelling. Ethan was trying, not perfectly, but authentically, and slowly, the children were responding. Then, one evening, a storm hit Chicago. Rain battered the windows, and lightning split the sky. The power flickered and went out, leaving the family huddled together in the living room. Madison lit candles while Ethan built a small fort with the kids, making them laugh, despite the storm outside. For the first time, the house felt like a home with all 4 of them present. Laughter replaced tension, warmth replaced fear, and the long-buried hope that had been dormant in Madison's heart began to bloom again. Later, as the kids drifted off to sleep, Madison and Ethan sat on the couch in silence. "You've come a long way," she said softly. Ethan looked down, tracing his fingers along the armrest. "I'm still far from perfect. I'll never erase the past. And I know I can't make up for 12 years of absence, but I want to be here for them, for you, and I hope, someday, they can forgive me. Madison's chest tightened. Forgiveness won't come overnight, but maybe it can grow. Slowly, he nodded solemnly. I'll wait. I'll do whatever it takes. The next months were filled with small victories. Ethan attending parent-teacher meetings, helping with school projects, taking the kids to the park, and even cooking dinner occasionally. The bond was fragile, tentative, but undeniable. He was present now, and that presence, day by day, began to heal wounds that had festered for over a decade. One evening, Madison watched Ethan reading bedtime stories to the kids, their faces glowing with trust and joy. She felt a tear slip down her cheek, not from sadness, but from relief. They were building something new, fragile and imperfect, yet beautiful in its resilience. Later, Ethan approached her quietly. "Thank you," he whispered, "for letting me back in, even a little, for giving me a chance to be a father again." Madison smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the living room lights. "Don't thank me. Just be here. That's all I've ever wanted." Ethan nodded, his heart full. The road ahead would still be challenging. Forgiveness was a journey, not a destination. But for the first time in 12 years, the past wasn't controlling their lives. They had a chance at something new: love, trust, family, and in that moment, as the city of Chicago settled into the quiet of the night, Madison, Ethan, and their children sat together, family reunited, imperfect but whole, ready to face the future. Together, because sometimes, life gives second chances, and sometimes, love finds a way back, even after years of absence. 12 years of abandonment, heartbreak, and unanswered questions collide in a single hospital. Watch the emotional story of Madison, a single mom raising 3 kids alone, who suddenly faces the father who walked out of their lives at the attending doctor. Through fear, tension, and unexpected moments of courage, the family navigates the fragile path toward forgiveness, trust, and reunion. If this story moved you, like, share, and comment below. Tell us how you would react if someone from your past suddenly appeared. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to catch more real-life emotional stories that inspire, shock, and touch hearts. Every view helps us share more powerful, life-changing stories like this one.